Don't try to be clever here. Don't hunt for the right answer like your life is a test you can pass if you guess well. This is not a quiz, it's a mirror. And the reason mirrors feel dangerous is because they don't argue with your excuses. They show you what's already there. So breathe once deeper than you usually allow. Let your shoulders drop, even if they don't want to. Now imagine 4 labyrinths in front of you, each one real enough that your body reacts before your mind can narrate. Don't compare, don't analyze, just notice which one pulls you. The first second of attraction matters more than 10 minutes of overthinking, because that first second belongs to the part of you that doesn't speak in sentences. It speaks in tension, heat, and silence. Choose a labyrinth instantly. If you chose Labyrinth 1, this message is for you. Labyrinth 1 doesn't look terrifying at first. That's the trick. It looks almost elegant. Clean stone lines, symmetrical corridors, a calm pattern that feels like control. From above, it's beautiful. From above, it makes sense. And that is exactly why you keep returning to it in your real life. Because you learn to survive by becoming understandable. You are the person who learned early that chaos punishes the unprepared. You read rooms like weather. You anticipate the shift in tone before it happens. You notice the smallest change in someone's voice, the micro delay in a reply, the difference between a sure and an okay. You do this not because you're dramatic, but because somewhere inside you, your nervous system still believes that being surprised is the same thing as being unsafe. And when you walk into Labyrinth 1, you feel a familiar relief. There are rules here. There is structure. There is a path. If you behave correctly, if you keep your composure, if you keep your dignity, if you keep your mind sharp. This labyrinth rewards the part of you that performs stability, the part of you that can smile while bleeding, that can keep going while silently begging the inside of your chest to stop tightening. But here is the inner conflict Jung would point to. The more you depend on control, the more you become controlled. Because Labyrinth 1 is not just a maze of stone, it is a maze of strategies. Your strategies, your coping skills, your I'm fine voice, your ability to make everything look reasonable, your talent for turning pain into productivity so nobody sees the trembling underneath. You learn to win by being composed, and now you're terrified of the kind of truth that would make you look messy, human, inconsistent, needy, raw. So you keep walking the clean corridors. You keep choosing what makes sense. You keep choosing what is safe. And you keep getting lost in a place that looks like clarity. This labyrinth is the psychology of the person who says, I just need to figure it out, when what they really mean is, I don't want to feel it. Because feeling it would mean losing the identity you built to stay alive. The strong one, the reliable one, the one who never collapses in public, the one who holds everyone else together, the one who keeps the whole world running while quietly forgetting to breathe. Labyrinth 1 is full of right turns that look smart, but lead you back to the same center. The same unresolved grief, the same old fear, the same secret anger you swallow because you're afraid it will make you unlovable. And you might be thinking, I'm not angry. But anger is not always loud. Sometimes anger is what happens when you keep abandoning yourself to keep the peace. Sometimes anger becomes numbness. Sometimes it becomes exhaustion. Sometimes it becomes the strange feeling of living a life that looks good, but doesn't feel like yours. Here's the core of your inner conflict. You want freedom, but you fear what freedom would reveal. You crave rest, but you don't trust the world enough to relax. You crave intimacy, but you keep your heart behind glass because you learned that love can become a lever people use to move you. You crave a new chapter, but you keep rewriting the same one with different characters because repetition feels safer than uncertainty. Labyrinth 1 is what you walk when you are loyal to the image of who you must be, even when that image is slowly starving you. Now look closer. In Labyrinth 1, the walls are not high, they're just high enough to block the horizon, high enough to keep you from seeing the exit while you're busy doing everything properly. That's what happens when the persona, the social mask Jung described, becomes your whole identity. You don't wear the mask anymore, you become it. And then you wonder why you feel tired even on days when nothing bad happens, because something bad is happening. You're living on the surface while your deeper self pounds on the floorboards below, begging to be heard. The solution is not to stop being responsible. The solution is not to become reckless. The solution is more precise and more terrifying. You must stop confusing control with wholeness. Wholeness requires something you've avoided: integration. In Jung's language, integration means allowing the parts you exiled, neediness, jealousy, desire, grief, rage, softness, longing, to return to the house. Not to destroy you, but to complete you. The labyrinth is not punishing you, it's initiating you. It's forcing you to admit that your strength may have been a brilliantly organized form of avoidance. So here is your practice, and it will feel almost insulting in its simplicity, because your mind loves complicated solutions. But your soul is not asking for a new system, it's asking for honesty. The next time you feel the urge to figure it out, pause and ask, what am I refusing to feel right now? And don't answer quickly. Your first answer will be performative. Your second answer will be defensive. Your third answer, if you stay still long enough, will be the truth. The truth might be, I feel rejected, or I feel replaceable, or I feel like I have to earn love, or I feel ashamed, or I feel tired of being the strong one. That is the thread. That is the hidden center of Labyrinth 1. And once you find the thread, you do something you weren't trained to do. You follow it without decorating it with explanations. Because your inner conflict is not that you don't know what to do. Your inner conflict is that you keep trying to heal with the same tool that created the wound: excessive control, excessive performance, excessive mental management. You don't need a smarter plan. You need a braver truth. Let me say it in a way your body will understand. You can't think your way out of a maze that was built to prevent you from feeling. So this is your exit. Give yourself permission to be a real person in front of yourself first, not later, not when you deserve it. Now, if you're still listening, it means Labyrinth 1 recognized you. And that recognition is not a curse, it's a door. Now do something small but powerful, because action seals insight. Comment: I'm tired of pretending to be strong. And if you want the next labyrinth, because the next one reveals a different kind of conflict that hides behind your relationships, subscribe. You're not here by accident. You're here because some part of you is ready to stop walking in circles. If you chose Labyrinth 2, you didn't choose it calmly. Something in you felt a subtle pressure, almost like a pull in the chest or a tightening behind the eyes. This labyrinth doesn't pretend to be orderly. It doesn't offer elegance. It looks irregular, organic, uneven, as if it grew instead of being designed. And that alone already tells a story about you. Labyrinth 2 belongs to people who have lived inside contradiction for a long time. From the outside, this maze looks chaotic. The walls curve unexpectedly. Paths narrow, then suddenly open into wide chambers that feel empty and loud at the same time. There are no obvious patterns to memorize, no clean logic to rely on. And yet, when you look at it, something feels familiar, almost intimate, like walking through a city you once lived in during a painful season of your life. Your inner conflict is not about control like Labyrinth 1. Yours is about direction. You have felt many things deeply. You have loved intensely, hoped sincerely, believed wholeheartedly, more than once. And more than once, life didn't respond the way it was supposed to. So instead of hardening into rigidity, you fragmented. Not because you are weak, but because you were trying to survive without shutting your heart completely. Labyrinth 2 represents a psyche that learned to adapt by becoming many things at once. You can be strong and fragile in the same hour, confident in the morning, uncertain by night, clear about what you don't want, but strangely foggy about what you truly desire. People may describe you as complex, emotional, unpredictable, or intense, but what they don't see is how much effort it takes for you to hold all these inner currents without drowning. This labyrinth speaks to the person who asks, quietly and repeatedly, why do I feel so much yet still feel lost? Your conflict lives in the tension between depth and stability. You don't suffer because you lack intelligence or insight. In fact, you see too much. You sense layers beneath conversations. You feel subtext before words arrive. You pick up emotional atmospheres the way others pick up temperature changes. And while this sensitivity gives you empathy and creativity, it also leaves you vulnerable to confusion. especially when your inner compass keeps spinning instead of pointing north. Labyrinth 2 doesn't trap you with walls, it exhausts you with options. Every turn feels meaningful, every direction feels like it could be the one. And so you walk, then stop. Choose, then doubt. Commit, then question. Not because you're incapable of decision, but because you're terrified of choosing a life that betrays your depth. You fear becoming shallow. You fear settling into something that doesn't honor your inner world. And so you keep moving inside the maze, hoping that clarity will arrive emotionally before you have to act. But here is the hard truth Jung would insist you face. Clarity does not precede commitment. It follows it. Your psyche is waiting for permission to organize itself around something real, something embodied, something lived. Not another insight, not another emotional revelation, not another internal debate that feels profound but changes nothing. Labyrinth 2 is the conflict of the person who lives inside reflection but avoids incarnation. You think deeply, you feel intensely, but you hesitate to anchor yourself in a direction because anchoring means loss. Loss of other possibilities, loss of other selves, loss of imagined futures that still feel alive inside you, so the maze keeps expanding. Emotionally, this often shows up as cycles. You get inspired, then overwhelmed, connected, then withdrawn, certain, then suddenly unsure. And each cycle leaves you slightly more tired than the last, because nothing fully integrates, nothing lands. The walls of Labyrinth 2 are made of unfinished decisions, unspoken truths, relationships that never fully closed. Dreams that were never abandoned but never pursued. Versions of yourself that are still waiting for a life to step into. Your solution is not to suppress your sensitivity. That would kill the very thing that makes you alive. The solution is to introduce something you've avoided. Structure that serves your depth instead of suffocating it. You don't need to feel ready. You need to choose a direction and let meaning grow through movement. Integration for you means accepting that not every feeling deserves the steering wheel. Some feelings are weather, some are echoes, some are residue from old wounds asking to be acknowledged, not obeyed. This labyrinth teaches you discipline of a different kind. The discipline of staying with a path long enough for your inner world to reorganize around it. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real. So here is your grounding practice, and it will feel uncomfortable because it removes the excuse of endless internal exploration. Ask yourself honestly, what is one direction I keep circling but refuse to walk? Not 10, not 5, 1. And then take a small action toward it before your emotions vote on it. Your inner conflict is not confusion, it's postponed embodiment. You are not lost. You are uncommitted to a direction that scares you because it matters. And that fear is not a warning sign. It's a signal of significance. Comment this single sentence if it resonates. I stop waiting for clarity and start choosing direction. And if you want to see what happens when the labyrinth is built, not from confusion but from fear of intimacy and mirrors, subscribe. The next one reveals a conflict that lives between you and other people, and it's more common than anyone admits. If you chose Labyrinth 3, the reaction was quieter. Not a pull, not a rush, more like recognition. A stillness that felt heavy, familiar, almost intimate. This labyrinth doesn't look complex, in fact that's what makes it unsettling. Straight passages, long corridors, clean intersections, nothing obviously threatening. And yet, something inside you hesitated before entering, as if your body already knew what your mind was about to avoid. Labyrinth 3 belongs to people who have mastered distance. You are not chaotic, you are not confused, you are not impulsive. You know how to function. You know how to be polite, competent, composed. You know how to keep conversations smooth and lives orderly. And because of that, people often assume you're fine, stable, grounded, untroubled. But the conflict here is not on the surface. It lives in what never quite reaches it. Labyrinth 3 is the inner world of someone who learned that closeness comes with consequences. That vulnerability creates leverage. That being fully seen can turn into being fully hurt. So instead of building walls, you built hallways, long enough to keep others at a safe distance, straight enough to avoid surprise turns, predictable enough to prevent emotional ambush. You don't disappear. You remain present. But you remain just far enough away. This labyrinth speaks to the person who says, "I don't need much," when what they really mean is, "I learned not to want too much." You minimized desire because desire once led to disappointment. You reduced expectation because expectation once ended in loss. And slowly, without realizing it, you turned emotional moderation into a lifestyle. The tragedy is subtle. You didn't numb yourself completely. You just lowered the volume. Labyrinth 3 is the conflict between self-protection and aliveness. You don't feel dramatic pain. You feel a dull, persistent flatness, a sense that days pass efficiently but without resonance. You achieve things, complete tasks, fulfill roles, but something inside you remains untouched, as if life keeps happening on the other side of a glass wall. From above, this maze looks solvable. From within, it feels endless. Because the walls of Labyrinth 3 are built from avoidance that feels reasonable. You don't open up because there's no need. You don't ask for help because you can handle it. You don't risk emotional exposure because it's not practical. And all of it makes sense until you notice that meaning doesn't grow in sterile corridors. You are not afraid of chaos. You are afraid of being moved, moved enough to lose composure, moved enough to need someone, moved enough to risk disappointment again. So you walk straight lines. You choose clarity over intimacy. You choose safety over depth. And over time, the maze rewards you with control while quietly stealing warmth. This is the inner conflict. You crave connection, but only on terms that guarantee you won't be undone by it. And no genuine connection agrees to those terms. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Labyrinth 3 is not protecting you from pain, it's protecting you from transformation. Because transformation requires exposure. It requires letting someone see you before you've edited yourself. It requires allowing life to interrupt your plans, your routines, your emotional neutrality. And that feels dangerous to someone who survived by staying contained. So the solution is not to become reckless or emotionally explosive. The solution is more precise, calculated vulnerability. Integration here means choosing one place, one relationship, one conversation, one moment, where you allow yourself to be slightly less defended than usual. Not fully exposed, just honest enough that something real can respond. You don't need to tear down the labyrinth. You need to open a door in it. Ask yourself this and don't rush the answer. Where am I being distant when I'm actually afraid? The answer won't accuse you, it will clarify you. Because your problem is not that you feel nothing. It's that you feel too carefully. And life does not meet us where we are careful. It meets us where we are present. Comment this single sentence if it resonates. I allow myself to be seen where I usually stay distant. And if you're ready for the final labyrinth, the one built from identity itself, where the conflict is not about control, direction, or distance, but about who you believe you must be, subscribe. The last maze changes how all the others make sense. If you chose Labyrinth 4, you didn't choose it lightly. There was no rush, no immediate attraction, just a quiet gravity, as if something ancient inside you recognized its own shape. This labyrinth feels older than fear, older than memory. Its walls are uneven, layered, almost alive, as if they were built and rebuilt across many lifetimes. Walking toward it feels like approaching a truth you've postponed, not because you didn't know it existed, but because you knew it would ask for everything. Labyrinth 4 belongs to people whose deepest conflict is identity, not who you want to become, not what you should fix, but who you believe you must be in order to deserve belonging, safety, or love. This labyrinth doesn't confuse you with choices. It confronts you with mirrors. Every turn reflects a version of yourself you recognize, the achiever, the caretaker, the rebel, the disciplined one, the spiritual one, the strong one, the silent one. None of them are fake. And that's what makes this maze so difficult. You didn't invent these selves to deceive others. You built them to survive different rooms of your life, and now they all live here, overlapping. Labyrinth 4 is what forms when adaptation becomes identity. At some point you stopped asking, "Who am I?" and started asking, "Who do I need to be right now?" And you became very good at answering that second question. Too good. Good enough that even you forgot there was a difference. You can walk this labyrinth flawlessly. You know exactly which version of yourself to present in each corridor. You know how to perform competence, wisdom, humor, restraint, intensity, spirituality. People admire your range. They trust you, they lean on you. And yet something inside you feels strangely absent when the day ends, because none of those selves ever get to rest. Your conflict is not fragmentation, it's over-identification. You believe that if you stop being useful, impressive, composed, insightful, reliable, or strong, something essential will collapse. Respect, love, order, meaning. So you keep moving through the maze, role after role, mask after mask, telling yourself this is just maturity, just responsibility, just growth. But the psyche keeps a different score. The cost shows up as quiet exhaustion, as the sense that life is happening through you rather than with you, as the strange grief of not knowing which parts of you are essential and which were only meant to be temporary shelters. Labyrinth 4 is built from one dangerous sentence repeated over years. This is who I am. Jung warned about this without sentimentality. The ego loves fixed identities because they create stability, but the self, the deeper organizing center of the psyche, demands movement, contradiction, and renewal. When the ego refuses to loosen its grip, the labyrinth tightens. That's why this maze feels heavy rather than confusing. You're not lost. You're over-defined. Every wall is a commitment you never revisited. Every corridor is a promise you made when you were younger, wounded, ambitious, afraid, or desperate to matter. And now you live inside those promises, even when they no longer fit your current truth. The solution here is not reinvention. It's disidentification. Integration at this level means realizing that you are not your roles, your past adaptations, your coping identities, or your most praised traits. You are the one who can step back and let them reorganize. You are the awareness that can loosen without collapsing. So here is the practice that feels terrifying precisely because it is simple. Ask yourself, slowly and honestly, if I stopped proving who I am, what would remain? Don't rush to answer. The first answers will be social. The second answers will be aspirational. Wait for the third. The third answer is quieter. It doesn't perform. It doesn't justify itself. It simply exists. That is the center of Labyrinth 4. And here is the paradox that resolves all 4 labyrinths. You don't escape them by fighting harder. You exit them by becoming more whole than the identity that built them. Control dissolves when feeling is allowed. Confusion settles when direction is embodied. Distance softens when presence is risked. Identity loosens when you remember you are more than what you learn to be. This is not self-improvement. This is self-return. And if you've stayed until now, it's because something in you already knows the labyrinth was never a prison. It was a preparation. Comment this one sentence if it resonates. I am more than the identity I learned to survive. And if this journey named something you couldn't articulate before, subscribe. Not because you need more answers, but because you're ready to ask better questions.